Welcome to Powerless to Powerful with Angela Bennett, a show that brings a sassy mix of transformative advice on health, relationships, love, career, and mindset shifting, together with some fun and laughter. Powerless to Powerful with Angela Bennett begins now. Hello and welcome to our show From Powerless to Powerful. I'm so honoured to have you here listening to the inspiration that we bring to each show. My special guest is a co-author of mine, 3 times, coming up to 4 times now in our latest anthology together. Lisa Yvette Jones, and she's all the way from, I'm so sorry, where are you from?
From Michigan, Southfield, Michigan, which is right here. Michigan is shaped like a mitten, so I'm right here, right there near the thumb.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Lisa. And so Lisa's mantra is simple. She supports leaders on their quest to attain professional success while ensuring their availability to serve others from a place of personal overflow, removed from all exasperation. In short, she reminds clients that a leader's life matters too. And I am just so honored to have you here, Lisa. I know that your journey is so powerful and you have been through so much. And I'm just going to hand you the mic and you can take it from here and just tell our listeners how you have come through a little bit about your journey. So how you've come from your trials and into your triumphs and how you ended up on my platform today.
Isn't that amazing? And I am so excited. First of all, thank you. I don't take this for granted. I just love the opportunity to share with my sisters. And I am so grateful that you even asked me. You know, Angela, our lives, we were talking, just doing a little chatting earlier, how when things happen, we just evolve with it. I don't know any other way to do it. I seen my mother of 7 children, raising 7 children by herself, do it. And, although I was there as the second eldest sister, I was always there in that leadership role. So my leadership role started right there in my home. Okay. It did, with my siblings, and really just helping my mother make sure that we were all on one accord, and, and we were carrying out her vision for her family. Because listen, she was a single parent, but my mother was also a recording artist. So she had, this other life. And then she got out of that world, and then she came home, and then it was just something so different for us. So our lifestyles changed, money dried up, and, friends, if they were at that time. But then, we learned to survive, and it was a struggle for my mother. And then I began, making sure that I helped out, and would always make sure that, I want to keep your vision for the family going. So I'm going to do everything I can to help, but you go through all of that. You don't realize the strength that you have until things happen. And, as life goes on, my mother, she then became, really kind of, sickly off and on. And so we were there for her. Her children were there for her. And, looking at being a caregiver for someone else, you sometimes get lost in making sure that you're caring for them. So all of my life is caring for my siblings, making sure my mother was fine. Then when my father returned to my life, because he was not a part of my life growing up, my mother was a single parent. That became something else too, that I went from not knowing this person to, I knew of him and I did meet him from time to time, but it wasn't a father-daughter relationship. Okay. Let's be clear about that. It wasn't. And then when I was about to get married, I wanted a traditional wedding. I did. And lo and behold, my father came back into my life, and my mother and I, we were all very excited about that. And I did have that, but to not go so far into that, my father then became ill. And then I started caring for him. So then I said, you know what is all of this caring for everyone else? I need to take some time out to care for myself. So as my mother had come out of a very serious health crisis, I decided to go and check on myself. And lo and behold, when I heard the news on my job, while, talking to one of my team members, I called this number back that I saw on my phone, and I heard these words, Miss Jones, your surgery is scheduled for Monday. This was on a Monday already. I said, well, today is Monday. They said, no, next Monday. And then I said, do you mind telling me what this surgery is for? I mean, I know I've had a biopsy, okay, because I had an irregular pap smear, that yearly appointment, ladies, that we must keep. And when I received the call for surgery, no one had ever told me that I was diagnosed. No one had told me. And I had no symptoms. I had no irregularities. I had none of that. I just thought I would give myself my birthday gift. It was in April that I started having these appointments. And, one appointment led to another. And I'm told that I was having surgery. So I said it would be nice if you guys told me what that surgery was for. And then I heard these words, oh my gosh, you don't want to hear that from a hospital staff, right? So I heard those words, Angela, and I said, oh my God, what? They said, Miss Jones, you have been diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer, and it's a high grade, and it's one of the most vicious ones. And then I said, stage 3? How many stages are there? And they said, well, there are 4 stages. And we have to get you into surgery before it gets to the 4th stage. And the 4th stage is when it attaches itself to one of your major organs. I said, well, where is it now? I said, I can assume. They said it's in your cervical area, and we've already seen where it's spreading. So, of course, I took time to go into prayer because I'm a woman of prayer. And on that 3rd day, the Lord let me know that this is not unto death. You shall live and not die, because the doctors gave me 2 death sentences. I went to 2 different oncologists, and they gave me 2 different death sentences. They both said that if you didn't have this surgery within 7 days, you are going to die. And then I said, I won't live on your words. I thank you for your diagnosis, but I am going to believe God for my prognosis. And he told me that I shall live and not die. And because they wanted me to have that surgery in 7 days, it was not a convenient time for me. And here's the thing, Angela. My son had just, had this wonderful scholarship to a prestigious boarding school here in Michigan, and he was finishing his 1st year. I also was a divorced mother, but let me tell you, I decided, okay, that's another thing. I decided that I did not want to be a bitter woman. And I prayed and asked God, please make me a better woman from this divorce, because our son deserves his father. And they were so close. I didn't want to come in the way of that. And I said, let it not be me. And then my ex-husband and I maintained a beautiful friendship and partnering of parenting for our son. In fact, 7 years ago, I buried my ex-husband on my birthday.
Wow.
I buried him on my birthday, and it was an honor to do so. Some people said, that's going to always be a remembrance. And I said, it's a good memory. He died on my baby brother's birthday. And if we had the funeral any other time, it would have been on my mother's birthday. So my in-laws said, you're just connected. They said, he is just connected. So here it is. You take care of everything, and it'll be okay. And we did. But, he was there for me. He was one of the first people that I called when this diagnosis came through. And the first words out of his mouth was, sweetheart, we will get through this together as a family, as we've always done. And he did that. And he wasn't even living in the same state at that time. He had moved to take on work. He was an independent contractor. So he and his team had taken on work in another state. And he immediately wanted to fly home. And I said, don't do it right now, because if you do, it'll trip our son up. And I don't want him to want you to come home at this moment, but just give us some time so that we can move him out of his dorm on time. And then we can tell him together. And that's what we did. So I wanted to tell you that they wanted me to have that surgery within 7 days, Angela. No. I had that surgery a month and a half after they told me. And that's when they just washed their hands. They said, you will not be here. They said, but if by chance you are, If by chance you are, then this one doctor said, he said, I'll do the surgery. Then he turned around and looked at me. He put his arm around my shoulders before the Me Too movement. Okay. And he said, why do I have the feeling I'm going to see you on June 29th? I said, because you will. And June 29th was significant for me because we had paid for our son to go to camp. And I didn't want my son to know that I was having the surgery, although we told him about what was going on, but I wanted him to still enjoy his life. So even in the midst of all of what I was going through, I'm still trying to take care of everyone else when I was in the most need of being taken care of. But you just can't turn it off.
Wow, Lisa. Wow. You know, it's just amazing when we go through trials and tribulations. I was talking to a friend last night and she said, be anxious for nothing and everything in prayer, bringing prayer and supplication to God. And
Yes.
in those moments, when you're going through, I don't like, did you have moments of panic? Did you freak out at all? Were you worried about anything, or just you just had so much faith in God that this would all be okay and everything would be all right and you'd be there on the 29th?
I really trusted God in this because I had always ministered to other people on what to do in their crisis. And
Mm,
I was in the biggest crisis of my life. And then
mm,
I said, well, if I believe it for them, I have to believe it for me. So all of those scriptures that I ministered to other people and told them to stand on, and you have to stand on this and believe it. Well, guess what? I would have been a hypocrite had I not done the same thing and turned that word on me. So my church had this wonderful tape. It was full of healing scriptures. All it was is healing scripture, and it had a companion book. So I quickly read the book, and then I got other books on people who have come through, their cancer diagnosis. And I read those books because I'm a reader. Leaders are readers, right? And
mm.
so every night I went to sleep playing those scriptures in my ear. I would, as soon as I laid down, I would hit my CD player. That was CD player at that time, not MP3. And I would hit my CD, and then I would fall asleep to all of those scriptures playing. I would wake up in the middle of the night quoting them right at their point because I had listened to it so much leading up to my surgery that it became a part of me. And so I would find myself saying them, I would find myself hearing them over and over. So when you're feeding your soul with what is going to sustain you, then it depends on what you're feeding it with. I was feeding it with the word of God. I was feeding it with the scriptures, okay? Because I knew that that was my prescription going into the surgery and afterwards. I needed that. So the only time I didn't have any fears going into this. And I just knew that my hair wasn't going to come out. That was the first time I cried. You talking about a vanity moment? I did. I started seeing, I had braids, and these are twists, but I had individual braids in my hair. And I would see one on the pillow, then I would see one on the floor, or, when I took a shower, I would see one here or there. I had started having the chemo treatments, and it was the most grueling, grueling time of this process. The chemo treatments, the pain was so excruciating that I told the doctors that if you do that again, you're going to put me in an induced coma and wake me up after the pain is gone. And he said, we figured you would have some pain, but not to the degree that you're saying. Because of the aggression of the cancer, we wanted to just make sure we got all the cells. I said, well, then you're going to have to do something a little differently. So they changed my process, but it required me to be at the doctor's office every week to do that, but not chemo. Chemo was once a month. So when I started seeing the hair here and there, I didn't think anything of it. I then made an appointment to go and get my hair redone. And I kept hearing the young lady who was doing my hair go, oh, ooh, oh, and I said, what is she doing? All of a sudden, I saw all the beauticians on the other side of where I was kind of come together. And what they were doing were protecting me. They blocked the mirror so I couldn't see what was going on. You talking about community. You're talking about community. So then the mother of the young lady who she had left to kind of finish do my hair, she came over. She said, "Oh my God." And when she said that, I said, "What do you mean? Well, let me help." And when I reached up, she smacked my hand down. So then I said, "Well, why can't I help get them out?" And I touched my hair, and then the braid fell on the floor. I touched my hair again, and then I was like, "No." And Angela, at that moment, I just stopped and started pulling out all the rest of my hair. And there, all my hair was on the floor. They were just hanging on by a string, and I didn't even realize it at the moment that I was getting it done. And then I just shook my hair. I just shook it. And then everything fell out. And that's when I cried. And all of them grabbed me and they held me and they said, "Stop it. You have your life." These were a bunch of, wonderful Senegalese women, Senegalese Americans who just really just embraced me and said, "You have your life. Hair will grow back. Hair will grow back, Lisa, but you have your life." And then I said, "Okay." And then I went to my car and got my camera and took pictures of all the hair around and took pictures with them. And it was a surreal moment. I cried. And then I called a girlfriend of mine who had a salon. I then asked her if she would do the honors of shaving me totally bald because I only had a few little sprigs up on the top. And I said, it doesn't make sense to keep them. So by her owning the shop, she had first chair, which means anybody coming in, the first person they're going to see is me. She said, "Do you want to do it here or do you want to do it in the back?" And I said, "Well, there's really no one in here right now." She said, "Yeah, I don't have another appointment for another, half an hour. And this is not going to take long." All of a sudden, a whole family came through the door. A whole family came through the door and I was petrified. And I said, "Okay, either you own up right now and embrace where you are, or you will forever be hiding." So she had her hands on my head and she said, "Are you ready to remove your cap?" And I said, "I am." And then when I removed my cap, all of those women that came in, that family, they just sit there and they stared at me. They stared at me. And then I looked at them and I said, "Excuse me, will one of you do the honors of snapping pictures as she shaves the rest of my hair off? I'm going through chemo treatments right now, and all of my hair just fell out, and this is what is left. And I want to journal my story. So do you mind taking pictures?" And at that moment, the youngest one of them said, "Please let me do it." She was about 14. And then the mother said, "I want to be a part of this. Can I do it?" And then the two, when I found out later, the aunts, they joined in too. They said, "Can I at least take one?" So here I was, Angela. I know it's so, when I think about it now, I just think about the courage that it took for me at that moment, Angela. I had to say, you either own this courage now or you will forever hide behind a hat, behind a mask, behind everything else. And now isn't the time. And I then took ownership of that. And I gave permission to others to be okay with me being okay with where I was. I think at that moment, they were so busy trying to see, like, why is she, hiding behind that? Or why is her hair like that? I wanted to release the tension in the room and give them permission to be okay to look at me. And then to not only look at me, but to help me through this part of my journey. It was powerful.
No one has made me cry on this show yet.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
No, don't. There is just so much beauty in this moment and in this story, Lisa, and I honor you for sharing this.
Thank you.
And no, thank you. And it's interesting that even in your moment of need and hardship, once again, you're making sure that everyone else is okay with what
Yes.
you're going through.
I think it's just in me. That's why I just said, okay, here I am looking out for them because I saw the shock on them. And they were literally like this. And they were looking down and kind of peeking up and almost like, and they were silent. You know, a family come in of women and they were getting ready to get their hair done. Come on, you know, it's normally a time of jubilee, but they were silent and they were present. And I realized, Holy Spirit, let me know they're present for you. It's okay. Ask them to join you in this moment. And I did. It was the best thing I could have done. And we hugged and we took pictures afterwards. And there I was with that bald head. And the first person that I went to go see is my mother. She's gone on to be with the Lord. But the first person I went to go see was my mother. And I walked into her house with the hat on. And then she was in the kitchen. She said, here's my beautiful girl. And I took the hat off and I said, look what Carla just did for me. And my mother took my head in her hands as Carla had my hand in her hands. And my mother just kissed my head all over. She just started kissing all over my bald head. She did. She said, you are still so beautiful. Yeah. And then I just held her and she held me. I then went home. I had the hat back on my head. I don't know why I kept putting this hat on my head because I wasn't used to it, just going out. And I sat down on the couch and my son came home and I pulled the hat off and my son looked at me and he looked at, the hat. He got up, he grabbed my hand and he led me to the bathroom and he put his arm around my shoulders and said, Mom, oh my goodness, now we really look alike. And we just bust out laughing. We just bust out laughing. We laughed so, and I looked at his, because, he wears his head, shaved, not bald, but, nice haircut for a young gentleman. And he was like, Ma, we look so much alike now. There is no mistake. And I know people always say I look like Daddy. And then when they see you and I and Daddy together, they'll go, okay, you look like both of them. He said, but now we really look alike. And I said, yeah, and I don't have too bad of a head either, do I? And so I was released at that moment. My son did that for me. He was only 14 at the time, but he took me and he just showed presence and care for me at that time.
That is just such a beautiful story, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot in that and that I'd love to unpack. And one of the things, and I'm not sure why this is coming up, but the woman's hair, it's such a crown for her.
It is.
And there is so much symbolism in it. And I don't know if you know more about it. I don't know much about it, but I know when I was going through my trials and then my separation, I shaved my head. It was the shedding of the old and the beginning of the new. And I absolutely loved it. It was so empowering. And I know it's a very different scenario to yours.
Yes.
But mine was a choice. Yours wasn't. But there is so much. There's so much in the hair and the crown of the hair. And it's not necessary. I know you mentioned vanity before, but it yeah, sure, there's a little bit of vanity in it, I believe, but I feel like there's so much more, and I'm not sure why or what it is, because we are women and we are not our hair.
Exactly.
We can go and buy a wig, we can shave it off, we can color it pink, we can do whatever we want with it. But it seems to symbolize something.
Particularly in the African American community, we spend so much on our hair. It is the world. It is a world for us. And there are billions of dollars spent by the African American community on hair products, hair looks, and what have you. And so it's just one of those things where it is a staple in the home of African American women to make sure that their hair is done properly. We went through so much during the time of slavery where our hair, natural hair, was not considered beautiful. And so women were wearing their hair. Slaves were taught to put a covering over their hair to cover it up because it wasn't proper. It didn't look kept. And, so that has been a struggle. So it's been a place of glory for us, but it has also been a place of disdain for others. And there's so much we could talk about on that alone. But when I found out too that, my mother, she would always wrap her hair. And there were certain ways that we could wrap our hair that made us look, very regal. And my mother would always do that, not because her hair wasn't done properly underneath. It's just she loved the styling of it. Well, my sister and I, and my niece, we picked up on that. Well, I did a DNA testing a few years ago and realized that I am 79% West African, Nigerian. That's where our roots are coming from. So it was no wonder that we love the head wrap. But when we take the wrap off, it was important that our hair, represented, just that we do keep our hair nicely and we get our hair done. And Saturday nights in our home Saturdays was hair day, because when you went to church on Sunday, you started out on Saturday making sure your hair was going to be proper. So my mother, as a young girl, would pay the neighbor down the street to press and comb my hair and make sure it was nice and beautiful and wash it. Then my cousins would do it. It was a production. It was truly a production. So for me to lose that, I think for me during this time of going through the cancer, I couldn't see what I had lost in the surgery. I couldn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel it. Okay. I only felt the incision, but I saw my hair loss. I saw that come out. And I think that was the first time I just really gave myself permission to release all of the loss, losing my body parts. Okay. Because I had all of that removed, and then releasing the hair. After a while, it became a lot better, because one day I went to work and I had another girlfriend who makes wigs, and she came over to my house and made one specially for me. And she's my stylist still to this day. I went to work and I had a colleague just staring at me, and I didn't know why. I said, "Tom, is everything okay?" He said, "You just look so different." And I said, "Well, yeah, got a lot going on right now." He said, "No, you just look different. Yes, you do, but no, you look different." So then I looked in the mirror and I said, "Tom, my eyebrows are gone and my lashes. Oh my goodness." And he said, "That's what it is." I said, "Okay, well, as soon as the store opens up across the street, I'm going to go and buy a eyebrow pencil, and I'm going to draw them on, and I'm going to put on some lashes." Well, from the time I left home after I cleansed my face to the time I got to work, I didn't realize my lashes had fallen out and my eyebrows had fallen off my face. So you're talking about a transition that you have no control over. And what did we say earlier in the pre-show? We evolve with life as it evolves. And I knew how to draw. I knew that I knew how to paste. I just didn't know how to put on lashes, but I learned. And so here we are today, 13 years later. My eyebrows have grown back. My lashes have grown back. But what did I spend time doing today? Drawing on my eyebrows and putting on some lashes. I happen to grow in love with, I have to happen to fall in love with the look.
You always look impeccable, Lisa.
Thank you.
Wow. Now I understand why the hair thing was coming up.
Yeah.
You've shed light on a topic that I wasn't aware of, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome.
The other thing that I'd love to talk about in this, out of what you have shared with us, is this. Well, this always touches my life. The tribe of women that came around you and supported you and protected you when you needed it in that moment. They didn't even know you.
No.
Yet they came together, and it's incredible when we have, because women can often sadly, be so competitive with each other and
Oh,
judgmental.
yes.
And it breaks my heart because when we collaborate and when we come together and we create community
Yes.
and a tribe and we support each other and we empower each other,
Yes,
incredible things happen.
they do.
We're just world shakers. We're powerhouses and we can just change generations when we come
Absolutely.
together like this. And so there was two scenarios that you mentioned in particular, and I'm sure there's been more throughout your life. I know through the anthologies I've created an incredible tribe of women
Oh,
who have
yes.
they have my back. They pray for me when I need it, when I'm going through
Yes.
stuff. It's just I've never experienced something like this. But when you mentioned the women in the hairdresser and then or both hair appointments,
Yes.
just it's just paramount that we come alongside each other, our sisters, and we shake this world. And it's not to we don't need to disempower men to empower women, and
Absolutely.
we don't need to disempower women to empower men. We just need to empower each other and come alongside and stop the fighting and stop the competition. And it's just incredible how far we can get when we do that.
Yes.
I mean,
Very
look at
beautifully said. I know those ladies never thought that when they came to the salon that they would be, conspiring with each other to protect me. I didn't know why they were moving the chairs together. I said, why are they getting so close? What in the world? Why are they moving those big old heavy chairs all together? It just didn't make sense to me. And I was reading because I always have a book with me or listening. I wasn't listening to one then, but I had one with me and I'm always reading. And so I knew I was going to be there for hours. And, if they were going to do my hair, but it ended up that I didn't have to stay for hours. And I said, why are they doing that? And why are they now speaking in their native tongue, which is fine. I mean, I'm used to it. The agency I work for, the world comes to me every day. So people are speaking their native tongue all the time. So then I said, interesting, and it just didn't dawn on me that they were protecting me. And then, like you said, the next salon where a group of women came in again and from like it looked like about 3 or 4 generations, which it was. And there they were, protecting and, wanting to be a part of my journey. And I love what you said so much. We do not have to disempower each other to empower one another. That is so powerful. That right there, that's a book right there. I'll give you credit for it.
okay. All right, great. Just let me write a chapter in there.
There you go, right? I love it.
So, Lisa, out of curiosity, through your journey, through your life, what is something that I guess you can leave? What is one of the lessons you've learned, and something that you could leave our listeners with to empower them to continue on their journey, to reach the goals that they've been wanting to reach, to help them from their pits of despair, if that's where they find themselves?
Yeah. One of the things that my doctor, my primary care physician, gave me was the gift of presence.
Mm.
She called me into her office just before my surgery. She wasn't doing the surgery. There were oncologists who were standing by to do that. But she called me into her office and just had just a moment, just special time for me. And she sat there in quiet silence.
Mm.
And it was the best gift she could have given me because in that moment, I realized that I can be a victim of this, or I can be a victor and be a conqueror of this. Now, mind you, she was from India. Her originally, where she was born, she's an American citizen now, but she was from India. And then I said, Doctor, if I having great insurance and I am coming to have my appointments, what about the women who don't even see a doctor? What about the women who don't understand what early detection means? What about the women in some of the villages from where you came from? How many women are dying every year or every second, every minute of the day from this? She said, Lisa, we will never know. We
Mm.
will never know. And at that moment, I stood up and said, not on my watch. I am going to become an advocate for this. I am calling the American Cancer Society and I am getting involved. I am going to get out there in the community and I am going to tell women the importance of early detection. I am going to let them know my story, that I had no symptoms. I had no irregularities. Nothing was missed. And here I was already in stage 3, as they said. I said, so I am going to do that. So I left her office and I called the American Cancer Society and I signed up to be a volunteer. And I have been out there in the community letting women know about early detection. So I would say if you've heard a through point of my story, it was always taking advantage of my lowest point to see how I can take advantage of making it a high point. Okay. So even when my hair came out in that first salon, I said, okay, thank you. After they embraced me, now let me go get my camera and take pictures. After that second salon visit, I said, let me give permission to join me in this. Okay. And stand up for what I am going through right now, because I had no control over what I was going through, but I did have full control over how I was going to respond to what I was going through. So that's another thing. Find out what it will take for you to respond to your situation rather than react, because reacting requires no thought. It is the first impulse you will do, but I want you to learn to get quiet. Get quiet. I had to get quiet all along my journey. And for those who know me, I'm a talker, okay? And many of you have figured that out now. But I had to learn to get quiet and then to hear that still small voice that became resounding to keep moving forward. So that's what I would tell people, to embrace where you are and then empower yourself with all the things that you may have told others. But even if you've never told anyone that, get quiet so that you will know what your next step is. And whatever you do, don't take ownership of the illness. I never did. I never took ownership and said I had cancer. I've always said they diagnosed me with, because I felt that if I took ownership of it, if I said that I had it, then I took ownership of that. And my thought, my subconscious mind would then go in the trajectory of that. I had already saw myself on the other side of this as healed. I had already saw myself on the other side of this as going to my son's graduation. When this first happened, he was only in the 9th grade. I had already saw myself on the other side of this having better health. And since that time, I have released over 200 pounds, because I asked the doctor what was the cause of mine when there were no symptoms and no one in my family who ever had cancer. He said cancer can hide in fat cells. And I did my own independent research and found that to be true. I'm not saying that everyone who's obese will have cancer, but what I am saying is I carried a precursor, over 200 pounds of that precursor. And I had to release myself from that too. So every moment of your journey will then spark another moment where you could just keep building on top of that to continue to climb higher until you are at a place where you are healthy and whole and you are helping others on their journey to become healthy and whole too.
Oh, amen. Amen.
We all have stories. Tell our story. That's what you have to do. Come through it and tell it.
We do need to tell our stories, because our story and our experience is someone else's freedom.
Yes.
And it is so important that we share that. And even through your story, through my story, it, girl, you got me all messed up.
Come on now. Yes.
Perfect. But it just brings, I think, with my story with prostitution and alcoholism and
what a story.
domestic violence, there's quite a bit of shame around, well, there can be. I did carry quite a bit of shame around those things. And when we do work through that, like you said, you're working through you had to work through your story and your journey. We do. We have to work through it.
We
And there's
do.
so much healing that has to go on, because you've got to, I mean, I'm not saying that there's shame around what you've been through, but I know with my story and with others, there's shame that needs to be worked through. And
Absolutely.
eventually getting through that and sharing that, like you've shared your story, I've shared my story, it
Yes,
does release others as well.
it does.
Um, Lisa, you have empowered me so much today
You're
and encouraged me. I just feel so uplifted from this conversation with you, and I can only imagine that our listeners do as well. Um,
I'm so thankful and thank you so very much. And let me tell you, your story is for those who God has already appointed to hear your voice. I don't believe that everyone will hear my story through me. You know what I'm saying? They will connect as as many people thought. Sometimes I'll speak and you don't know who's connecting, but if one person in that room, then that's the one person I came for. That's the one person my story was for. So for you, there are so many people connected to your story on all sides of it, from the prostitution to the domestic violence. There are women who are waiting to be released from Angela's story. There are other women who have gone through domestic violence. There are other women who have gone through prostitution, sex trafficking, but there are women assigned to your voice. Never stop telling your story. Release them.
no, yeah, no way. That
Yes,
if everything I went through, and I'm sure you feel the same, if everything I went through saves one woman's life or changes one woman's life,
yes.
all worth it for me. All worth
Oh,
it.
wow.
Lisa,
Absolutely.
I know that you and I actually, we have a couple of things coming up.
We
We have,
do.
oh my gosh, we have a couple of
Oh my
major,
gosh. Mega
major.
things. You know what? He keeps doing it. He keeps doing it. Angela, last year I prayed and said, I'm with all these different groups now, and it's amazing that so many of these women are doctors and, they have gone on and they're this. And I said, Father, this is really amazing that you've put me in the company of such wonderful women. And I have just been loving the journey that I have been on and sharing that journey with you and other sisters. But then I said, is there a secret? Are the schools that overflowing? I said, because Father, if they're not, I don't mind if it comes honorary or what have you. I'm good. I've gone through and gotten my associates and my bachelor's and my master's degree. I said, I don't have to go that route because I've been living the life. I have been doing the work in the community. My company, we're out there. We're doing that. We're changing leaders' lives. We are, making a difference. And then I said, I've already put the work in. Is there another route? And then lo and behold, it came. Wow. We share that together. I'm so happy. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Oh my gosh, me too. So we'll have 4 anthologies up under our belt together.
Yes. Yes.
Our honorary doctorate that we will graduate with together in Vegas, and then we share a stage together in
And the
Vegas
stage. Isn't that
as
amazing?
well. I'm loving how our lives have become so intertwined over the last
Yes.
few
Yes.
years. It is just an honor that God has put you in my life the way he does, and
Oh, same here.
I don't take it for granted. You are so inspirational to me,
Thank you.
and I'm
Same
truly
here.
grateful. Now, how can people get in touch with you if they would like to find you, Lisa?
Yes, I'm on social media, pretty much all the social medias, and I'm having my LinkedIn at this point, revamped. So I am on social media at Lisa Yvette Jones. So YVETTE is my middle name. So they can find me on any social media under that name. And also, I would love an opportunity to give any one of your callers or your viewers a complimentary discovery session, a coaching session. I'm a leadership coach, so John Maxwell certified leadership coach, speaker, trainer. And I would love to give an opportunity for a complimentary session, discovery session with them. So that's my gift to your audience, that they can spend a half hour with me in a discovery session, and it could be about whatever they choose. If it's helping them move from, being stuck and where they are, I am a transformational leadership coach. So if it's that and just moving, from that direction, learning how to pivot, okay, then I am definitely the one that you want to talk to. I can be reached at area code starting number 1 for the United States. I have to remember. Okay, 1 for the United States, 248-952-8122. That's 248-952-8122. And I can also be reached at my full name, Lisa Yvette Jones at gmail.com. Lisa Yvette Jones at gmail.com. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you so much, Lisa Yvette. I thank you. This has just been an honor. And
Thank
for
you
all
so
of Thank you. For all of our listeners out there, you now have a way to contact Lisa Yvette Jones. So don't hesitate. Get on that call. Go and
Yes.
go and change your life and move forward for a free consultation call with this woman is just, it is an honor, believe me. And I might even take you up on one of those myself.
Oh, let's do that.
Yes.
We have regular girlfriend time, so we can do that.
I just want to
Thank
thank
you, Angela.
thank you, Lisa, and thank you to all of my listeners. And if you know someone who needs this encouragement, who needs to help to hear Lisa's story, please share this on all of your platforms, share with your friends, and you can also reach me at angieb.com.au. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Follow Angela on Facebook and LinkedIn at Angela Bennett, on Instagram at angieb_transformations, or visit angieb.com.au. And remember, your past does not define you, it refines you.